Mayor Bill DeBlasio returns to nasty surprise in NYC after coming home from protesting Trump at G20. What happens when you're a mayor who thinks you're as important as the president? If you're Bill DeBlasio, you end up making a fool of yourself. Obviously, the title of mayor of New York City is a high honor, but it's still not as high as being the president, which any level-headed person would know. In what can only be seen as a stroke of ridiculous, or maybe just the result of a stroke, DeBlasio decided that the executive branch of government might need his help when they were at a G20 conference. Being the team player that he is, DeBlasio jetted away from his own jurisdiction of New York City and started weighing in on political issues and handing out blanket platitudes that might make any foreigner think that the citizens of New York City were lucky to have this strong leader in the mayor's office. Unfortunately, his words weren't taken quite as well by his constituents. The people of New York didn't take too kindly to their mayor talking out of both sides of his mouth and making a political power play, trying to ride the president's coattails when he had business to attend to back home. The New York Post tripped into the city's mayor, and rightly so, for leaving the country and talking about how we need to support the police, only to skip out on honoring the very police he supposedly supports. American Lookout reported on the issue. Bill DeBlasio certainly made a spectacle of himself while President Trump was dealing with the G20 summit. And it didn't escape the eye of the media back home. The New York Post certainly has their ire up over his actions. E-Headlines has the first slam. The headline of this article is, Payback, New York Post cover punishes Mayor DeBlasio for flying to Germany to mock Trump. New York City is in trouble. They've just had a bad week, so Mayor DeBlasio decides to skip town and head for Germany. The day after a police officer was assassinated as she sat in her car. So the New York Post decided it was time to punish the mayor. That less than flattering headline was just the beginning of the PR woes that the disgraced mayor is going to be dealing with for quite some time. The publication went on to lay out, line upon line, exactly what tipped them over the edge to expose his hypocrisy. New York Post. One nice thing about speaking to a foreign crowd, they're unlikely to realize how rude their remarks will sound to the people back home. At least, that's surely true of the lefties in Hamburg who cheered as Mayor DeBlasio waxed bizarre. Right now in New York, talking up the subways as a metaphor for social harmony would bring Bronx cheers. Public transit does indeed have the rich and the poor, people of all faiths and all backgrounds, cramped and close together, but they're all also facing delays and service outages, thanks to leaders like DeBlasio who ignored the system's growing troubles until they became a crisis. And, while it was nice of the mayor to urge thanks for the police whose protection makes protests possible, the crowd he was addressing included the extremists who had injured hundreds of Hamburg officers by throwing bottles and fire bombs in their protests of the G20 gathering of world leaders. Not to mention the fact that DeBlasio, by scooting off to Germany, had missed Saturday's mass vigil at the 46th Precinct Station House for slain police officer Myosotis Familia, just as he'd missed Friday morning's police academy graduation ceremony to prepare for his trip. For his audiences, the mayor's speeches were empty feel-good. Let's all congratulate ourselves for supporting diversity and openness. Aren't we just like the civil rights movement? Let's all boo those nasty right-wing populists. We're the real voice of the people. Save the planet and fight the 1%. For that, DeBlasio got a free trip to Europe and a chance visit his son, plus the opportunity to field softball questions from the foreign press and to preen as an international progressive leader. All of it a lot more fun than dealing with a public that expects real-world results. Apparently, he doesn't actually thank the police. He just uses it as a political prop to win over the undecided. This is just another display of the liberal disregard for the actual duties of the offices that they're elected to. There seems to be nothing that is as important to a liberal as the liberal agenda. Forget honor and country and all that, if it's Trump-related, they're going to do their best to discredit or destroy it, even if that means destroying the reputation of our country in the process. Perhaps these low-level Democrats should stick to doing their jobs and keep their nose out of the president's business. We elected President Trump, not any of the rest of these liberal puppets, and he's doing a fine job without their interference. If DeBlasio is scorched by the anger of the people of New York, just think how bad it will be if the Democrats continue to try to circumvent the will of Americans in general. The bad press is going to be the least of their problems. Source: American Lookout, New York Post. Share if you think DeBlasio got exactly what he deserved. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe Breaking News 365 channel. Goodbye and see you again.